Hi, I'm Wayne Brock, Chief Scout Executive of the Boy Scouts of America and former Scout Executive of the Central Florida Council. I wish I could be with you to celebrate and reminisce about serving on staff at Camp Lenoche. I have fond memories of working with many of you during my 13 years in the Central Florida Council. It was because of you that tens of thousands of boys have experienced the magic of scouting, because you were there to guide and mentor them. I'm sure at times it probably never occurred to you the lasting impression you would make upon their lives. I often encounter former scouts who, like me, can still recall in astonishing detail their very first Boy Scout summer camp experience, and even the names of their camp counselors. Those are memories that will last a lifetime. You should all be proud of that. I can honestly say the 13 years I served in Central Florida was some of the most personally rewarding years of my scouting career. I missed the weekly Scoutmaster dinners and the opportunity of interacting with the staff and campers. When I arrived in Central Florida in 1992, I remember how impressed I was with the great camping program that had existed there for decades. I was surprised how many troops from outside of the council chose Camp Lenoche each summer rather than their home council camp. It became very obvious that a solid foundation had been laid by my predecessors, principally Ken Drupisky, who was Scout Executive in the time before Disney, the mid-1960s through the mid-80s, when he retired. Ken's love for Camp Lenoche was unparalleled, which is why today it is one of the BSA's premier scout camps. Ken still lives in Winter Park, and I understand he also was not able to be with you today. It was a great honor that I have been given this opportunity to thank him for his long stewardship of scouting in Central Florida and to introduce his video appearance. Enjoy the rest of your reunion, and thank you for what you do for scouting.
Thank you, Wayne, and congratulations on the fine job you're doing as Chief Scout Executive. And we look forward this summer to the opening of the Great Summit Reservation and all the fun and pleasure to bring to young men all across the country. Greetings and welcome to those of you who have come today for this year's reunion of the camp staff of Camp Lenoche. Both to those of you who served years ago and those who have served more presently. But welcome, and do have a good time while you're here today. And as you gather, I'm sure you'll think about where Lenoche came from and the many things that have happened on this property over the years. You may know that Camp Lenoche has been in business now for more than 60 years, and that initially it consisted of some 50 acres that was purchased by two scouters from Orlando who decided we needed a bigger piece of property than Camp Weewaw. And so this land was purchased, having only at that time a manor house and a few other buildings which were standing. No dining hall, none of the other things that have been added later. And as time has gone by, we've added many other features to camp itself. And they would be amazed, I think, if they were here today to look at the property and to see the changes that have been brought about. A beautiful dining hall, a swimming pool, an excellent waterfront, and many other things. A great hospital unit now for first aid and other problems. Anyway, the additions have been many, including many new campsites, so that the camp now accommodates a good many more boys. Now, as you think about Lenoche in your days here, you may recall some of the interesting things that have happened here, both good and bad. Do you remember, for example, the year the camp staffer who slept so soundly that at the close of camp, the staff went there early in the morning and moved him, his tent, the platform, his bed, all of his property, to the flagpole that used to stand down near the waterfront, and stood there or waited until he woke up to see the look of amazement on his face that he had been moved and had no idea that had taken place. And then again, there was a rowboat, do you recall, an old aluminum rowboat that the camp directors decided would make an interesting entrance to the waterfront by having OA members stand in the rowboat while there was a fire burning brightly in the front. What they hadn't counted on was that the fire would burn the aluminum as well. And so the aluminum caught on fire and the boat sank, and the OA members had to come dragging through the water, ruining their costumes and the other thing. And then there are some sad things to remember as well. Do you remember the grappling hooks we used to have at the waterfront and the old
Lily pad.
and the old lily pad, so that if some tragedy took place at the waterfront, we could rescue a boy. And because of that grappling hook, we were able to build a new camp swimming pool, some now a long time ago. But when board members realized what we had to do to rescue a body, they were soon agreeable to building the new pool, or the pool at that day. Anyway, it's been full of interesting and wonderful things that have happened here over the years. And I hope today, as you have opportunity to reminisce and recall all of those days that you enjoyed at Camp La Noche, that it'll be a day filled with memories and with good times, and that you'll once more catch the spirit of La Noche.
Hello, my name is Janie Phelps, and my maiden name was Caldwell, so that made me the daughter of Collie Caldwell, who was the council executive here in Central Florida Council from 1953 until he retired in 1969. Truly, I am one of those lucky kids who grew up in a home, almost a June Cleaver, Ward Cleaver type of home, where Dad was in scouting, so we lived scouting. It was pretty much our lives, and my mom was a teacher. When I was little, we moved to Minnesota. Daddy had been in scouting a short time, 5 or 6 years. He got a job offer in Minnesota that moved him up in rank to an assistant council executive in the St. Paul Council. And so we lived in St. Paul for a few years, but my brother's health wasn't very good. And Dad asked for a transfer. He wanted to come south. Well, his idea of going south was going back to the Midwest where we had come from, because we were Kansans. And he was so surprised when he was offered the opportunity to interview here in Central Florida with Mr. Don Cheney and the council, or the board, for a position. I remember him flying down, coming back and saying, they can't offer me enough money, and we've got to have a certain amount of money to live. Coming back down, and I guess the council did a little work and managed to make it work for us. So in 1953, Daddy drove to Florida, and we stayed in Minnesota and tried to sell our home so that we'd be able to move to Florida. He was, I think, totally taken back to Florida. It wasn't the Midwest at all. It was hot, it was humid, but his love has always been camping and the camp part of life, and he was well known for his ability in the aquatic area of working around water, and he'd always done summer camps for many years. He was totally taken with Camp La Noche, and I remember from the very first time I moved, when we first moved here, it was our weekends. We went almost every Friday night after school was out. We would head out and we would go up to camp, spend the weekend, and then on Sunday afternoon it would be that last boat ride around Lake Norris before we'd all pack up and head for home. In the very beginning, I remember the camp being very, very small. I haven't been there in a while, so I know it's grown a great deal, but I do remember the main three buildings were the Manor House, which was a log building, and it had bedrooms, and I'm assuming they were meant to be living rooms. We always got to, that's where we always would sleep. Then there was a smaller building in between as you walked over toward the dining, or not, it wasn't really dining hall, it was a kitchen. Apparently the original owner, when he built that, built on that land and designed it so his family would have to get up and walk to meals, because apparently they didn't want to do anything except expect to be waited on. So he put his kitchen far enough away that it was back, I think half a mile maybe, you had to walk for all of your meals, which as far as I was concerned was awesome. It was a great thing for a 9 or 10-year-old child to be able to do. I learned to drive at La Noche. I learned to shoot bows and arrows and a .22. I remember staying in what was later called Collie's cabin, and we'd go down by on that old dock that's probably not there anymore. Is it gone? Is it still there? Oh, that's exciting. Anyway, we'd go down to that dock and nighttime with our flashlights and lay there and watch for see the alligators, so you could see just their eyes. If you'd lay on the dock and be real quiet, you could see them swimming along. Don't remember ever being afraid of alligators, because I learned to swim in Lake Norris, right there on that particular beach. Learned to swim, to paddle a canoe, just to have a really wonderful time going up there. We would build, usually on Saturday night, a campfire, just a small one, and we'd roast our marshmallows as a family. I remember the pride my dad had. It meant so much to him each time they could add some more land or each time something new was expanded. I remember the building of the dining hall. And it's so different because before that, all the food had been taken out to the campsites to the boys. And after the dining hall was built, everybody, they would ring the bell and everybody would come in for a big meal at lunchtime with the bug juice. And because I got to hang around camp, I, got to experience all the things that with the boys. And I remember going up and loving to go into the big walk-in freezer and thinking how impressive that was, or spending time with my family, cooking, and then we would hang out in there because you could have the fireplaces going, it would be warm. And there was always somebody from the council staff, whether it was somebody from one of the districts or their families up there to visit and have fun with. And it was really just a warm family environment. When we first moved there was a little gentleman who was named Julius, who was our camp ranger. And he would always just kind of, pat you on the head, and he always had some kind of a little gift to give you. And he was just always there to take care of things. And then later, as the camp grew, they brought in some type, I think it was maybe modular housing for Bill Norris and his family, and he had 2 children. And they were more over by the place, over by where the dining hall was. And he became the camp ranger, taking care of the land and making sure that it was safe all the time. My vision, I know, when I look back, is so narrow in comparison to what's there now. I know there's a pool, which I've never seen, and I know a lot of the buildings have, like I know the Manor House I've heard is, beginning to change, has fallen apart. It's not even there anymore, completely wiped out. But those were some wonderful times. I can remember sitting there in the summertime with my mom, and if I was struggling with something in school or learning to work on, had gone to summer school and I was going back over stuff. My mom was a teacher, so she always had a little extra time in there for us to do some homework. And some of the girls who worked in the scout office, their daughters and I were friends, so sometimes they would come and spend time with us. My brother lived there. In fact, his teachers used to say, oh my gosh, he gets out of school on Friday, he comes back on Monday, he's worthless because all he's done is go to camp and had a great time being up there. As I got older, I would spend parts of summer at the camp. I was telling Gary, my first boyfriend was on the camp staff. His name was Dennis, and I just thought he was fantastic. It was fun to be able to hang out with staff members. I got to sneak into watching OA, campfires and ceremonies. I got to do the things that I didn't get to do in Girl Scouting simply because I just never hit that right troop. However, I have made up for that in later years by being a scout leader for Girl Scouts with my own daughter, and then later with other girls and her former leader. Some things about Daddy I think you might enjoy. When he first came to Florida, this is about what he looked like. He was in his early 40s and excited to be moving into council executive in a new council. It was I think approximately 3,300 boys when he first came here. By the time he retired, there were close to almost between 1,600 and 1,700. I honestly don't remember that number exactly, but I know we were really close and we thought we were going to make it by the time he retired in '69. While we were up in Minnesota, he would send postcards, and every single postcard we got was a picture of someplace in Florida, like this one with oranges, of course. Northern kids never seen oranges before. He sent us pictures of where he was staying, and let me see if I can find the one of the Angevelt is hysterical because that's what the Angevelt Hotel actually looked like back in the 50s. And downtown Orlando was a very small community. But his references always to us was about the fun he had over the weekend. They got up to camp and how much he enjoyed being there. I'm excited that you guys are here and that you're getting this time to be together. Scouting is such a wonderful profession. It's such a wonderful life for young people. And as a child who grew up in a scouting family, as a parent who had a young son who was in scouting and a daughter, I'm just so glad you're all here and getting together at this time. And I wish you the very best, and go with scouting.